Are we living a life that's deserving of a trilogy this good? Let's get into this. Welcome to Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams, and I am fresh back home after seeing MaXXXine. This is the third part of the X and Pearl trilogy. Real quick, this is going to be a spoiler-free review, so if you have not seen it, don't worry about it. I ain't saying jack nothing about this movie, except the stuff that's going to be spoiler-free. Right off the bat, this is Ty West's baby, and I will say he's done a phenomenal job of making an entire story that feels very connected. You definitely feel like you are in this world, even though all three movies have seemed to have really relied on certain types of ideas or looks. For example, the first movie being X, which is actually the middle movie of this trilogy, very, very much is relying on the aesthetics, the feeling, the look of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre back in 1974. I mean, it's obvious. Then you've got Pearl, which is like a Technicolor nightmare kind of movie, but still also giving way to that very early 1900s type of look. Obviously, this takes place during World War I, so it's definitely going to have that look and feel to it while also pumping up the saturation. This movie, MaXXXine, this is a movie that is a feast for anyone who very much loves your indie 80s, video nasty type of movies. It just looks good. It has that same feeling. The music, everything is there. It's just so good. Jumping into the music real quick, yes, there is a lot of 80s needle drops in this movie, which is always nice, especially if you're a fan of those kinds of songs from back in the 80s. But also the score done by Tyler Bates is very aesthetic to that kind of 80s, the electronica kind of sound. It's one of my favorite sounds that I like to hear when I'm watching a movie that's to take place during the 80s. Very indicative of the theme song to Stranger Things. If you like that kind of electronic type of sound, this is going to be a great score for you, and I absolutely loved it. And it's not very often that I'm talking about the score right off the bat, so that's how much it stood out for me, at least, in this movie. Again, as I said in the Out of the Theater reaction, Mia Goth is a frickin' star in this movie. She does a very good job of playing basically the character of Maxine Minx, who we last saw in X, who survives the whole massacre in that movie. Spoilers for that. That one's been out for a while. This is spoiler-free on Maxine, though, so keep that in mind. So we're seeing how she's dealing with that while also still pursuing her dreams of being a star, trying to break out of adult films and trying to be the way it's usually phrased, a legitimate actor doing real Hollywood productions. And I really like watching her on this journey. It's kind of like we saw the same thing with her character of Pearl back in Pearl, but obviously, of course, in that movie we see Pearl with all the ambition and the gusto to do it, but just not quite living up to that expectation and not really securing that future dream. Here we see MaXXXine essentially making good on that dream and pursuing that film career. So yeah, I absolutely love watching her character continue to grow, especially coming off of what she went through in X. As far as the movie, the look of it, like I said, this is very, very much like an Indies 80 video nasty type of movie. I actually feel the first thing that came to my mind is this looks and feels a lot like Basket Case from Frank Henenlotter. Now, that movie actually was made in the 80s and shot on location in New York, kind of guerrilla style, over the course of a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. Because they just didn't have the money, so they had to film it in pieces while they were securing funds. This movie, though, it still has that kind of feel to it, even though it's not filmed during the 80s. It takes place in 1985, but it still has, at some points, it has that clean look of a movie that's filmed nowadays, but there are still indications, lights, sounds, feelings, emotions, that are very much of the mid 80s, and I really like that about this movie. So you've got that slasher feel to it because there is a serial killer that is out and about that everyone's having to avoid, and it's all a mystery, which I love that part of it because the mystery of it actually does put this kind of in the realm of what I feel like a giallo movie, the old Italian, very like pumped up on the saturation as well, but very like killers wearing black coat, black gloves, you don't know who the killer is. It's a lot like that with that sounds, the feeling, and again the score coming back to kind of help back and reinforce that giallo feeling that this movie is doing. As far as the performances, Mia Goth does a phenomenal job. This movie has like a ton of stars. Unfortunately, I don't think they all get like a lot of time to shine. For me, I would say the only other one that I felt like was a major standout was Giancarlo Esposito. Again, I really don't think I've ever seen him do anything that I don't like. He's having a great year as well. He had a great character in Abigail earlier this year, and this just continues his horror movie legacy of 2024. And I think he does a phenomenal job in it. Kevin Bacon, also always fun to watch, hamming it up with his private detective character. The locations on this, one thing that I do like is the locations are very interesting if you've been there before. A lot of this movie is obviously filmed on the Universal Studios backlot, so you do see like at one point they're walking out of the clock tower that was used in Back to the Future into that town square. If you're familiar with those movies, you'll start recognizing certain things. If you've been on the Universal Studios tour in LA, that you'll recognize some of the places that they go to, like the Bates Motel. There's also, I believe, one quick glimpse of like the staging area where they have like that fake flood that comes in. A lot of that stuff is in this movie as well. So it's always fun to see if you were a fan of studio backlots, or if you've been on that tour. I loved it. It was great. It's just really fun to see Ty West have a passion and a love for these kinds of movies, and because of A24, he's been given like free reign to make this entire trilogy, and you just see that passion and love in all three of these movies. MaXXXine, like I said, is a good follow-up to all of it. I feel like it's a good cap onto the trilogy, even though it sounds like Ty West may be looking into doing a fourth movie. I'm not sure what else he could do, because I kind of feel like the story of MaXXXine / Pearl sort of is capped off by this movie, so I don't know where else they could go other than just checking back in to see where MaXXXine is in her life in later years, especially as she gets older and starts going into the age of Pearl in X. That might be interesting to see. I'm kind of curious, but I like how my opinion changed just in the process of talking to the camera right now. So that might be interesting, but I don't know what he has planned right now. It just seems like it's rumors that he may do a fourth movie. Who knows? I'll be eager to see that, though. This movie was great. I will have to say I'm going to rate this probably an 8 out of 10. I really liked it. There are parts of it that are kind of a little bit slow, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. If you like, again, those 80s indie horror movies, giallo type slashers, this movie is definitely going to be for you. So go check this out, especially again if you're a fan of Pearl and X. That is going to be my review. What did you think of MaXXXine? Let me know down below in the comments. While you're down there, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. We're back to doing movie reviews and trailer reactions as we can get to them, so make sure you subscribe and follow us on everything we do. We are at The Cinefanatics on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. You can follow me at RCA Reacts on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, and youtube.com/RCA Reacts. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.